I would be lying if I didn't tell you that it hurts as you grow, especially be on the Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing companies. People don't talk about what comes with growing fast because you have to evolve and become a completely different person.
And this means freedom, self-awareness, expression. And this to me means you can be more than one thing. I'm Jasmine Bowdry, and you're listening to And This Podcast. Welcome to another episode of And This. I am Jasmine Bowdry, and I'm so excited for our next guest. She is the founder of Empify, a fintech company that not only educates and empowers, but is truly making an impact in the financial space of how we can truly grow our legacy through investments. Additionally, we're really going to get a servant's heart. I'm so excited for this episode, and I am so excited to welcome Ashley Fox. Thank you for
having me.
First, before we even start about anything, let's get into this outfit. You look amazing.
Thank
you. First of all, but you
it.
always show up in style. That is definitely one of the things that I admire about you.
Thank you.
You definitely show up in your style and in business. So I am loving this.
Thank you.
This
Shout out to my
look.
stylist. She keeps me together.
You know, we'll talk about that later. The importance of a stylist, because everybody doesn't get it. Everybody doesn't understand. But no, I want to welcome you to And This. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm good. How are you?
I am well, learning and growing every day.
As always.
Yes.
As always. So if you are just like oblivious, right, to not seeing the shifts that have been happening with you, I don't know what people are doing on social media. So obviously we know you as the founder of Empify. We have been seeing you kill it on social. You are on the Inc. 5000 list. Thousands on your webinar. Like, you really are just showing up so powerfully in this season. What's going on?
I think this is the season of outside for me. I think I spent a lot of time building Empify on the inside and then realizing that I need the world to know we exist, who we are, what we do, and the impact that we make. And I just made a decision to just go outside. So I'm an introvert. I'm an extrovert in my craft, and I'm an introvert at heart. But I made the commitment to really want to grow my business. I don't want to be my business. I want to build my business and scale it so that it's a sellable business, because my number is $3 billion. Like, you got $3 billion, you can come buy Empify. But I want to build a business that is worth $3 billion, and not a business just because it's ran by Ashley Fox or surrounded by Ashley Fox, but because Ashley Fox created something that is a scalable, sellable business that can impact the world, whether I'm here or not. So I think in life now, it became more purposeful. I became more driven. I became more clear, and all the pieces just started to align. So every day I'm learning. I would be lying if I didn't tell you that it hurts as you grow, especially be on the Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing companies. So we came in the top 15% at 652. And people don't talk about what comes with growing fast, because you have to evolve and become a completely different person. So there's a lot of unlearning, relearning, and creating the version of Ashley that can build that Empify that is going to change the world.
Well, first, congratulations on being in the top 15%. Okay, please note, we connected a few years ago, and I don't think your father had passed at that time. And so we've kind of seen this shift of, your father passed recently. You credit him a lot with just the legacy he provided, your strong financial mindset. But I feel like we are now just seeing him and everything that he instilled in you through you. With that kind of shift of having such a hard loss. And that now do you feel like that now kind of is fueling the momentum that we see?
So I come from a 2-parent home, and my dad was a phenomenal provider, right? He wasn't the most emotional, loving, hugging kind of guy, but he was a provider. When I thought of success growing up, he was the go-to person for it. And when I went to Wall Street, I got exposed to millionaires and billionaires. And so my job was to work with individuals that had at least $25 million or more. So working on Wall Street, I got exposed to a different life, a different environment and possibility. And my desire to create Empify is because I felt like for something we're using every day of our life, money, it's not taught in our school system. We're not talking about it at the dinner table. But why did I have to major in finance at Howard, work on Wall Street to really see this? And so deep down, I always want to be a teacher.
Really?
I just did the Wall Street thing because you made money and I wanted to make money.
Okay.
And when I left Wall Street, I wanted to be the person that financially empowered the 99% that Wall Street overlooked. And I didn't know how, I just knew why, and I knew I was going to be the woman to do it. Mm-hmm. So the birth of Empify, my company, one is the merging of the word empower and modify put together. Because the biggest thing I learned is the world is not missing a lack of education. We're missing the lack of inspiration, execution, and belief that we deserve to have wealth. Mm-hmm. And so how can I dig deep on the inside of people, pull out their inner potential to show them you can have and create whatever it is your heart desires? And so building Empify, putting programs in school systems, prison systems, and really targeting working professionals and entrepreneurs, I knew I was onto something because I saw it on Wall Street. Yep. And so when my dad passed away, which was at the top of last year, it changed my entire life. And that was the first major death that I experienced. Yeah. And I didn't know who I was. And I spent years and years of going to therapy. I have 2 coaches, a spiritual advisor. I spend a lot of money on the development of Ashley Fox every single day. When my dad passed, I didn't know who I was. And I was so confused. At that point, I didn't want to be in my business. So I left my business for 6 months. I didn't know who I was and what I wanted. And I was just there. And I've been at points in life where I've had to just be with Ashley. Yeah. And so I just sat in my grief, in my anger, in my sadness, in my love and everything. But when my dad passed, he had all his finances in order. And so my dad was a great provider, but he didn't expose a lot, right? So I teach finance. My dad had it all in order for his family. And so when my dad passed, he had everything in order, from every account to every passcode. It was just, you didn't have to find anything. And everything was prepared with the intention that if he was never here again, his family would be okay. And so it's myself, my brother, my sister, my mom, and my family is set. My mother is set. She was set while he was living and set in his passing. But being the person who saw wealthy people create that legacy for their family, I always thought they could do it because they were rich.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I thought I could be rich and I would do what rich people did. But when I saw my dad, who worked in law enforcement, I saw him do that for us. It made Empify make even more sense. So my belief in what the world could have is because of what I was exposed to. If I could see a wealthy person do it, they might spend $100 million on stocks. When I opened my account, I started with $300, right? And I was just going to $300 my way to become the wealthy person that I saw on Wall Street. But what my dad made me realize is that you don't have to major in finance. You don't have to work on Wall Street. You don't have to come from money to ensure that your family is set for the rest of their life if you're not here. And so it put all the pieces together because I then was a wealth creator, but I was also a generational wealth receiver. So now it's hey, I can show you how to build wealth. Here's what I saw wealthy people do. And hey, I can show you how to make sure it's properly passed down to your family so that we're not starting all over. And when you just think specifically of our community, if you don't come from money, you don't have those resources, you don't have that exposure. If no one passes it down to you, you don't know that you can pass it down to the next person.
Exactly.
And so because I got exposed to Wall Street and because I was a recipient of something, it made me realize that I could be just like my dad. I would do what I saw wealthy people do, but my dad made me realize I had all these accounts, I had money, I had all these things, but if nobody knows that it exists, then what good is it? If nobody knows how to work a brokerage account, then what good is having a brokerage account and passing it down? If nobody knows how to go and get a death benefit from a life insurance policy because they don't have the education, I can have all of this money, but what good is it if it runs out, 2, if they don't even know it exists? And so my dad allowed me to strengthen what I had already created in a space where it could, 1, last forever, but also in a space where no matter who is a recipient of the wealth that I have, they understood it, whether they were financially educated or not. And after a while, I got to a space where I just felt like my dad went to the Empify school and I didn't even know he did. So the whole time while I thought Wall Street exposed me to wealth creation, it was my dad. It was in my DNA the entire time. And so it kind of put all the pieces together. And it made, 1, my belief in what I'm doing for the world even more possible. You couldn't tell me I couldn't do this before, but now I know I can do it because I'm not mimicking someone from Wall Street. I'm mimicking someone who had a normal job, had a normal family, didn't grow up with money, but still made sure he provided for his family while he was living and in his passing.
One, that's so powerful, but just the exposure of it all, right? Just being able to see it. You were able to see it before because you saw it on Wall Street. You were able to see it because you saw your dad doing it. Even in his passing, you were able to see it. A lot of us in our community don't see it. I know with myself and my mother, I had to fly. I'm from Michigan. I had to fly home to take her to our estate attorney to get her affairs in order. Like, it's the baby boomer age. She just like, I don't want to think about death.
Right.
I don't want to think about it. With your dad being the opposite and having everything kind of planned, what would you share to our audience that probably is the same as my parents, like where they don't want to think about that. They don't want to think about what that looks and feels like, but it's imperative for the future of not even yourself, but just legacy in general.
The first thing is, you can't make anybody do something they don't want to do.
This is true.
But you can be the person who inspires people to do, because your light is shining. So my dad's light shined because his light was so bright. Mine has to shine just as bright, if not brighter. So while I thought I was doing what I saw on Wall Street, I'm taking what I learned on Wall Street and also implementing what I got exposed to with him. So one, I'm also realizing that my dad is a very unique person and not everybody thinks like him, but I also understand that I'm a very unique person and not everybody thinks like me, but I know how to impact massive amounts of people all over the world. So how can I get you to understand? So the first thing is, you have to recognize, one, this is possible. While you might not want to talk about death and it's uncomfortable, you also can't say that you love your family and you love your kids if you want them to struggle and you're not here. So you're doing your best right now to give them and your family what they need. You don't want that to end if the provider or the person who's taking care of the household is no longer here. And I think one of the unique things about my dad is because he was in law enforcement. Now, there was a point where he was on the street. He wasn't on the street for a very long time. But when you are a cop, you don't know if you're coming home. Yeah. So in his mind, I'm raising my children. I'm taking care of my wife. I'm the provider in this family. At any moment, something could happen to me. I got to make sure my family is here. He naturally was born to serve in his profession, in his family. So we have to think about, what am I here to do? Am I here to just live here and do what I got to do to make ends meet? Or am I here to be the game changer in my family? And that's more of an internal shift than an external shift. So you have to ask yourself, are we okay with complaining about money, not having money, and our kids struggling and us beating ourselves up about it? Or are we going to do something about it because we know you can and you know you deserve it? So I think there's a mental shift that has to happen first. But I think also one of the easiest things you can do is just become cognizant of just where your money is, right? Like, do you have a checking account? Do you have a savings account? Where is this listed, right? Do you have beneficiaries on these accounts? And even if you don't have a lot of money in this account, what if 20 years from now, God forbid something happens to you, there's now money in it, right? Yeah. And so you have to treat you as a business. If I were to invest in you and I looked at your financials, is everything in order? Would I want to invest in you, right? What do you have in place, or what should you have in place, and start to work every single day towards that? And my dad was not the richest person, but I saw throughout everything I looked through, I watched how he built. I watched how he set money aside for a house because he kept everything. So I saw from the moment I was added as a beneficiary when I was born to when my brother and sister was added. So he kept every piece of paper. He also wasn't very electronic-y either, so I was able to see everything. But I think the first step is to own the fact that there's no president, there's no government, nobody's coming to save you. And we have to get out of that mode of I'm a victim, because you're not. You're the victor. What does it look like if you could do this? What does it look like if, without a doubt, I'm going to be the person in my family to change how finances operate in this family? But it's not easy, but it is possible. And I think somebody has to own up to that. And it might not always be your parents. And I think we look to our parents as that go-to, but you also have to accept your parents did the best that they could with what they were given. Yeah. Times are different now. We couldn't just go on YouTube and watch a podcast and learn how to invest. Now times are different. So what are you doing with this opportunity that you have to say, I want a better life? And I think there has to be an internal shift before there becomes a financial shift.
I love that. What I hear is you have a servant's heart. And I noticed that. And it seems like your father had one too. He was in a position to serve by being in law enforcement. With all of this, you're trying to build a company to scale to sell it. Number is $3 billion.
There you go.
Be clear, $3 billion. You impact millions of people, right? With this heart. But how do you allow others to help serve you?
So I've learned that this doesn't work if my cup is empty. So I'm really good at knowing when my cup is empty.
That's good. Awareness.
Yeah. And I'm also really good at knowing when I just don't have it, right? Yeah. But I will pay to find it. Mm-hmm. I will pay for the help. because I know that I'm worth the investment. And so pre-therapy, I did have issues with receiving, whether it was love, whether it was support. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect, but it's a non-negotiable for me to be better. Like Empify does not grow if I don't heal. So now if like my spiritual advisor told me Empify was created for me to heal. If I had no Empify, I'd have no desire to be better. Like Empify gives me a bigger purpose to show up for the world, because I know you're not going to find another Black woman who has Wall Street experience, who has a commitment, and the exposure that I've gotten. And I remember my mentor told me this, it's selfish of me to hide who I am for the world, knowing what I know. So I've accepted the fact I'm not going to be selfish. I also don't have a plan B, so this has to work. You couldn't pay me to stop doing what I do. But considering the fact that when I started to go to therapy and I realized that the direction my life was headed, because I went on TV and I would get anxiety attacks. And I'm just like, I don't understand what's wrong with you. I don't have the answers. Somebody has to help you. So I started to go to therapy. Okay. And therapy started to uncover pieces of my childhood, pieces of my life. And I would see commonalities of what's going, like, I give you a prime example. I go to the Inc. 5000 conference and like, I loved it. Like I felt so seen. I felt like we all have the same problems, and the sessions that they had, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to do this. But you can see me, right? Yeah. I didn't realize, in that moment, I knew my cup was empty, so I knew I had to go. And what I learned is, like, now what's happening in my business is I got to show up every day. Like, there are people on my team, and I'm still healing from my father's passing. I'm being a CEO of a company. We're growing as fast as, I don't know what I'm doing. I've never had this kind of money. I never had this team. I never had this office. I never had this recognition. But it's here because I'm ready for it. But I got to show up every day, and showing up is a job within itself. What's happening is I'll get like angry, and like, and I'll see the anger pop up in so many different situations. And it's not the person that's making me angry. It's they're the trigger that's causing me to realize there's something on the inside that needs to heal. Yeah. So I go to Qigong, I go to my coaches. Then I find out like, oh, you're kind of lonely. And my inner child, this is literally, you were talking about 48 hours of awareness right now. My inner child is lonely, and she's having temper tantrums because you don't understand what I'm going through. So I'm mad at you because I got this life, of which the life that I chose right. to have. I chose to grow fast. But now you're telling me, because you're triggering me, that I got work to do. So now I'm on this mission to like, okay, let's get back to loving on little Ashley, because nobody's going to show up for me. Yeah. I'm going to show up for Ashley. I'm going to love on Ashley. This is what I need to do. And now I'm going to all my sessions, telling all my coaches, what do I need to do? You know, and so really understanding and having that awareness around it. But I had to be willing to recognize I don't have it all together, but I need your help, and I'm okay when it comes to asking for that.
And it's the awareness, right? Because we all have that inner child that shows out. Mm-hmm. And I really think it's not until you understand that I need help, I need therapy. Like, I love my therapist, like for years. Again, angry, but just at certain things, you know, why hasn't this happened? Why didn't this work out? Why am I doing this? Why, God, why did you have me, you know, do this and this and this? And then you talk to someone, right? And they help you uncover all of those wounds that you had that ideally probably stemmed from like childhood. And so you've acted out in all of these ways, in all of these different situations throughout your life. You've noticed the pattern, but now you're aware of it. And so you're more aware of what's actually triggering you. Nobody's responsible for your triggers, right? So I recognize that, because before it would be like, well, you did this and you made, you know, you got me acting up. You got me acting all crazy. Like, no, like what in you needs to heal so that you can, one, recognize I need to step back, or I need to take a moment, whatever that looks like for you. Thank you for sharing that, because, you know, sometimes you feel like you alone. Like, am I crazy?
Yeah. I think as I've grown as a person, there is only one you. No one will fully understand. But I got to get good at understanding me. So why do I feel like this? What do I need to do so that I don't feel like this? And it's not anybody's responsibility. It's not anybody's job. But I am aware that this feeling exists because I see the patterns showing up. And even me telling you this, I didn't know this. Like, I watched myself react to something that happened, and I'm watching myself. Business-wise, I knew how to handle it. I got enough coaches to tell me how to handle it. But I'm more concerned about, why are you so angry? Like, why? Like, I know the solution to this, but why does it still bother you? And I literally had like an immediate session with my spiritual advisor. And I'm like, what's wrong? What's going on? Like, why am I so angry? And immediately she just connected the dots. And so when she connected, I said, oh my gosh, I got angry just like this when this happened. And it was with 3 different people who don't even know how I reacted, because thank God I didn't display it that way. But it's like, I can't show up like that every day. Like, what if it's happening here, it's going to happen over there. And it's like, I got to deal with this, because if this is happening at this phase of my life, well, what happens when we get back on Inc. 5000 again and we grow faster? Am I just going to go crazy? So because there's there's always somewhere for me to do work. And I'm okay with recognizing I don't have it all together. I'm okay with telling people, I don't know what it is that I'm doing, but I have a good track record of not knowing what I'm doing. And eventually I figure it out. But I also make the time and make the investment to figure it out, because I don't have all the answers.
Hey friend, if you're a business leader, public figure, or industry expert, and you're looking to step up your style game and make a statement, during our one-on-one discovery call, I will take you through all of the personalized styling options that we have available that will match not only your message, your body type, but also your budget. You can click the button below or look in the show notes to schedule your one-on-one image discovery call today. What I'm hearing from you is an extremely high level of awareness, right? Which a lot of people do not have. But I also hear the accountability. Like, you are holding yourself accountable to not only your growth, but your healing. And you're doing it in front of thousands of people, right? We're watching you become this leader as you are growing and healing. But I'm curious to know, with all of the things that your dad taught you, that you saw, what are some of the things that you maybe had to unlearn as you've now gotten to this extremely fast pace of growth, but based on what you saw kind of growing up in his legacy that he left, what are some of the things that you had to unlearn?
I think most recently, I've learned that I am very results oriented. Like, you give me the goal, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to hit it. I get the job done. And my dad was very dependable like that. But one of the things that I learned that I didn't learn until the start of therapy is that my dad didn't really show emotion. And I mean, we think about a Black man raised in the 60s. He was in law enforcement. In all honesty, you really can't be vulnerable or emotional. And society didn't support that type of man. And sometimes it doesn't even do it now. And so that's how I was raised. And so one of the biggest things I learned my dad has is we are identical, which is why we also clashed. Because my dad is a provider, I am a provider. Like, I didn't need my father to provide. I wanted my dad to love. I wanted the emotion. And so when I think about how I run Empify, you don't need me to love. You need me to run this company so we could win. But everybody doesn't receive love that way. And so now as a leader, I've learned I can bypass the emotions and I could get the job done. But how people see me is what matters. Like, I remember I was at some event, and the former CEO of Ford said, when you're a CEO, your facial expression no longer belongs to you. And I said, well, since when?
Yes, honey.
And I was reading this book I'm reading. It said, when you interact with people on your team, especially some of like your direct reports, you are one of the most impactful people in their life because they spend the most time with you. But it's not like that for the CEO. So there are people that are direct reports to me that they're not in my top 5 people that I'm conversing with, but I'm in their top 5. So the impact and how I show up for them causes a lasting effect on them and how they operate. And if I'm just trying to bypass the emotions and trying to get the job done, they then feel unseen. And I know what feeling unseen feels like because I had an emotionless father. And so now I'm seeing how I got to take the things that have made my father who he is, that has made me who I am, but also understand my dad wasn't in the public eye. My dad didn't have a team of people he was leading. My dad wasn't trying to build a big old business either. And he also wasn't trying to change the world. So how I make people feel, despite what I'm focused on, I also got to take into consideration what they're focusing on and what matters to them, especially if my job is to get the best out of them and to help them become the best version of themselves, especially people on my team. And that's very challenging. It is the hardest thing for me to do right now, because when you run a business, everybody's different. Everybody receives love a certain way, receives constructive feedback a certain way, and what works with one person doesn't work with another person. So I went from at one point being the Michael Jordan of my business to now having to be Phil Jackson. And it's like, and I want to be a Phil Jackson because at some point Michael Jordan had to retire. But I still want the rings. I still want to be the coach. I still want to show you that I can lead a team. but I don't have anything to mimic. So subconsciously, I'm only doing what I'm used to doing or seeing, which has been comprised of the majority of my life being raised by my mother and my father. So how do I take the awareness that they have given me, or the awareness that I now have based off how I was raised and what I was exposed to now see how I can be better as a person, unlearn some of those habits, to then relearn what it really means to be the version of Ashley that I see as a leader, not as what my dad was, but who I want to become as a person. And so that is probably the biggest thing, and it is the most uncomfortable. I don't want to do it because it's like, if it's one thing I know how to do, I can make money. But I can make money. Can I build a company that can make money and still grow, whether I'm not there or not? And one of the things I had learned when my dad passed is I was out for 6 months and my team was running the business and we were good, but we weren't growing. Okay. Like if I never came back to that business, Empify would have lasted 4 years. I didn't go through all of this to have a company that only lasts 4 years if I decided to go somewhere. So when I came back, I then became more intentional on how are you building this business? Because what got you here won't get you there. But what needs to get you there is someone you have never been. So now I am driven by the becoming of Ashley, but also the mourning of who Ashley used to be. And it's like both of those exist at the same time. And I'm aware of it. So sometimes I miss old Ashley and I want to do things the old way, but I'm still an infant in these spaces because I don't know how to do it this way and I'm just doing my best.
That's so good. The becoming and the mourning. How do you express that and share that with your team so that, one, not only that there's grace there, but that they understand that you're in between different seasons right now. So how do you as a leader showcase that and share that with the team? Or do you?
I do to an extent. I own up to where I make mistakes. I am firm on my boundaries because I'm not always going to see. When you have a business, everybody has an opinion. Everybody wants something. You can never be the one for everybody. You're not going to be perfect. So it's dealing with the fact that I'm not, and I'm okay with that. But I also heal out loud. Like my team knows I go to Qigong. My assistant knows.
What is that?
So it's like it's a form of Tai Chi. It's like the cousin of Tai Chi and yoga mixed together. But it's a way that you can use your body to manage your energy. I was very stressed at a point in life and it was recommended. And so I like power yoga, not regular yoga, but I do that to work out. And it was recommended to go to Qigong. And when I went to Qigong, I was uncomfortable and annoyed. And that's how I knew I needed to stay. Like my assistant knows like, hey, if I don't go to acupuncture, I don't go to Qigong, I'm not talking to my coaches, I'm not going to be okay. So these things have to take place in order for me to be my best. I expose that to my team and I'm very transparent. My team knows where we are. They know where we're falling short. They know what our focus is. They know how much money we make and how much money we don't make. And I just do my best to go through this journey with them. I don't think I say everything because some things my team will just never know, or understand, but that's not what they're here for. I think I spend more time I'm at this space now in my business, I'm spending more time understanding who are you and where are you your strongest? Like there was just recently, there was a person on our team who was not the strongest in a role, but for the life of me, I didn't feel inclined to say, all right, he's out. I've never been in that situation, but this was the first time in my company that I had to create a role because this is where this person is strong. I want this person to thrive here. I want to create the best environment, but I had to look deeper into each individual person to see how can I show up for them better? How can I put them in the best position to win? And which is different than making money. So now my life, and I think that's the difference between becoming a founder and a CEO.
Exactly.
And I'm becoming more of a CEO. And I want to, but I also have to accept I've never been a CEO. I've been a founder who's been thugging it out, figuring it out. Now I have something that works and now we're making it bigger and better. But I do my best to own up to what I don't know, own up to the fact when I make mistakes. But also just ask, like, what do you need? What do you want? Like, how can we be better? And I think if I could do that for the world, I can do that for my team. If I could change the world, I can change and grow and love my team. And that's a non-negotiable for me. So I think every day I'm figuring it out. I don't think I fully got it.
Did you use strength finders?
No, but we also use a very robust DISC assessment too.
Oh, okay.
So we like pay for DISC assessments. Okay. And now what I do is I use ChatGPT to compare me and them. And like, here's how you work better with Ashley, and here's how Ashley works better with you. And now I'm not 100% where I want to be, but I want to allocate like a day where it's just dedicated to understanding and putting people in the best position to be themselves, while still making sure the lights are on and making sure the company is still growing. And at some point, that is going to be my job. At some point, my job will be bringing in the money and leading the people and understanding and serving the people at Empify outside of just serving the world so that we all can make the impact together.
I want to shift from business, but I have a question that I'm curious about. What I'm seeing a lot online with business owners now is scaling back. They're like, I'm going lean. I'm trimming down the team. I am doing things more, digitized, more passive. Like I'm not trying to build this big company based on just kind of where times are. So essentially maybe their dreams have shifted, but I'm seeing a lot of entrepreneurs talk about scaling back. Mm-hmm. We don't see that with you.
I'm the complete no.
We do not see that with you. We see foot on gas, go faster. How can we actually go even more? Like that's what we see. And I'm just curious because personally, I feel like this is just innately in you, mm-hmm. right? Like this is not in everybody, right? Everybody is not built like this. But for those that maybe once had a dream of building a $3 billion company that they can sell, and they've just grown so weary in the process of doing it, mm-hmm. what would you say to them?
You're right, because I know a lot of people that are like that. I think you first have to decide how big you want to go, because you can only go so far by yourself and with a small team. Like I can give you 10, 20 people I can hire right now. We just don't have, it's not even we don't even have the money to hire. We don't have the capacity to lead them to be the best. When it comes to what does onboarding look like? How are we monitoring? What are your KPIs? How are you excelling? But I would say, and it's funny because I had a friend of mine, she asked me, she's like, there's a difference between being a founder and a CEO. Are you sure you want to be a CEO? And it's like, I'm sure I want to impact the world and I want to reach billions of people and I can't do it the way I got here. Mm-hmm. So if that is my only option, of which I have evidence of multiple big old businesses and what it takes, it's like, I want that. I don't know what that is. I've never done that before, but that has worked for these multi-billion-dollar, trillion-dollar businesses. Like sometimes I ask myself, do you want to build a publicly traded company? Do you want to be one of the first Black women to have an IPO just because you want to go break barriers? And it's like, well, if that's the case, I can become a Jeff Bezos. Well, what does it look like to become a Jeff Bezos? What was Jeff Bezos doing at this stage of his business with other entrepreneurs? And so I think it's understanding how big you want to build a business and making that decision, because some people are okay with making millions of dollars. I don't want millions. I want billions. And it's not because I'm driven by money, because I'm going to have the money regardless. But it's about what does it mean for a Black woman to build $1 billion business that is not in entertainment, that is not in television, that is not in sports, but to use her intellect to make a difference in the world. I need people to see more of that. And if that has to be Ashley Marie Fox, and I want to be that woman, and it doesn't matter how hard it is. If I've gotten this way through healing Ashley, it just means I got to heal a little bit more to go to the next level, because my Qigong lady says, I take quantum leaps in life. And I'll have this big audacious goal, and I have to become the woman to be ready for that. But it requires a lot of shedding, a lot of letting go, and becoming a new version. And when I think about who I was before my dad passed and the person I am today, it's a completely different woman, completely different person. But because I have evidence of who I used to be, and I now see who I am, and I've seen what I've grown to become, what we've been able to create as a company, you can't tell me I can't do it again. I'm just going to go to another level. And so I'm just wired that way. But I think the first thing is you have to decide, because going from a couple $1 million to making $50 million to $100 million, you're not just making classes on the internet, and which it's so much more, and you just can't do it by yourself. So you just have to make a decision, and you don't have to want that type of wealth, but I want what I saw on Wall Street, and you can't tell me that I cannot have that. And all of them either invested in their own idea or they invested in somebody else's idea. And I just decided to create Empify.
So I believe that style is the physical manifestation of how we feel about ourselves, like things that we're doing. And I feel like you express that very, very well. Like you show up in your confidence, you show up in your power, and the way you dress and show up is just the outward appearance of that. And I know you have a personal stylist. What kind of just was your thought process from who you were before, the woman you were before, how you maybe were showing up before, and now how you show up? Because I ain't never seen you look bad. I've seen many looks, and I'm like, Ashley, she got it. She got it. And then I think I saw you had a stylist. And again, a stylist is just like the icing on the cake, right? We just help to bring to life what's already inside. But I think that a lot of people don't understand that, right? Like, I'm not saying that you wouldn't be this version of you if you didn't dress a certain way, but I definitely think that the power of who you are shows up in your clothing.
So when I was on Wall Street, I played the game. It wasn't who I was, but I did what I needed to do to get the job that I wanted. Yes, black and blue.
Black and blue.
And when I left Wall Street, I made it my business to never say or ever wear black or blue again. So very rarely will you see me in black. It got to be really cute, and I really want to get it to get black. It's also safe for me, and I didn't want to play safe anymore. But when you think about finance in general, right? Yeah. You don't think of a black woman. You don't think of style. You think of ideally a Caucasian man. This is what my kids used to say, a Caucasian man in a trench coat. Yeah. Like that's what you think money is. Yeah. But when I think about wealth, it doesn't have a color. It doesn't have an identity. So what if it looks like Ashley? What does Ashley want to look like? But also when she shows up, I already know how you think about money. I know that there's fear, there's doubt, there's worry, there's disconnect, there's not enoughness. I know all the emotions that are tied to specifically the Black community, but a lot of people, when it comes to the deserving of money, whether you're conscious of it or not, we don't attract what we want, we attract who we are. So because there's already a preconceived perception of what money looks like and what it does not look like, I want to redefine that. So when you see me, I don't look like I teach finance. I don't look like I worked on Wall Street. But when I open my mouth, you know this girl knows something, and she comes from somewhere, and she has some intellect, which causes you to redefine how you see a woman, a Black woman, and finance in general. So I'm very intentional on looking the way I want to look, but in a way that redefines how we see our ability to create wealth, because we have a preconceived perception. The other thing is I'm also an introvert. So I'm not the person that's going to walk into a room.
But you talk through your clothes.
So I'm not going to go talk to everybody, but it is a way for me to connect, because I know my outfit always will speak something when I walk into a room. So when you take the outfit, you take the Ashley at her core, I give you an amplified experience. So whatever you could possibly think of me, I've already changed that within seconds of you even meeting me. And so, not to mention too, it also makes me be in a moment, in a life where I'm uncomfortable. I sometimes don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. It makes me feel good about myself. Like, if I might not know this whole CEO thing, but I can show up and look good, and that boosts my personality, my energy, my confidence, just when I walk into a room, agnostic of what you think about me, but I feel better because I look better. So like, it's even like when I go to the gym, like I have to look good because I want to feel good, and I will operate good. And I think all of that trickles down to the becoming of Ashley.
So agree. Like, as a stylist, I could not say more, because I always share that your style starts conversations. I am an introvert. I'm literally not gonna go into a room and be like, hey girl, hey, oh my God, hi. Like, I'm just not. I'm more of an observer. I'm more of a listener. Like, I'm kind of like to be behind the scenes, but I'm gonna show up, and that naturally just attracts people. And then you can start having those conversations. The wall comes down a little bit. So I absolutely love that I am not alone in
Everybody
this.
doesn't. I've just seen it work.
It works. Yeah. I mean, it works. I literally have clients that have gotten leads or new clients because they're like, I just felt so confident because of how I looked. Like, it's always in me of who I am, but now I just feel so good because I look good that I show up differently, that people naturally gravitate to me. I don't have to say anything. They're going to be like, oh my God, I love that. Oh, what is it that you do? Oh, I was looking for an attorney, whatever that conversation is. So I love that you realize that, because I feel like a lot of people don't. I know I started investing late. Personally, like, it just wasn't something, I wasn't taught this in school, right? It wasn't something that is shared a lot in our community. So for those that may be beginners or feel like it's too late for me to get started, what is a simple framework, some simple tips? What are some things that they can do to really just start beginning their investment journey?
So the first thing I would say is, for a lot of people feel like they're behind, or they're too old, or it's too late. I always tell people, Empify wasn't ready for you, and you weren't ready for Empify. You also can't beat yourself up, because why would you have known you were supposed to invest? If you didn't learn it in school, they didn't talk about it at home, your environment didn't embody it, then you did the best that you could with what you were given. But because there's an awareness now, and you have access now, the question is, what does life look like for you for the next 50 years? What if you live another 50 years? I don't want you 50 years from now saying, darn, I should have started investing. Darn, I should have took an Empify class. So I would say, start to rewire your mind and think about what could I do now, little by little, brick by brick, share by share, to put me in a better position. I know I could have done it earlier, but what if earlier is my today for my future? So what if I start now? And so I always tell people the easiest way to start investing is, one, you want to get a brokerage account. You can put as much money or as little. I would say if you have at least $20, you can start investing. And put yourself in a position where when you think about what companies do I want to own, because I believe they'll be around and be bigger in the next 10 years, right? We think about what you spend your money on, what you give your time to, what you give your energy to. At this pace, there are $1 trillion businesses that exist because we are their customers. Yep. So understand that when it comes to investing, specifically in the stock market, there's no stock market without you as a consumer. There's no wealthy person without ownership in the stocks of the companies you give your money to. So why not go get money with the billionaires? Why not own a piece of the companies that they created? And so what I always tell people, just sit down, one, open your brokerage account. I like Fidelity, E-Trade, Charles Schwab. Don't overcomplicate it. It's the account you use to invest. It takes less than 5 minutes to open. And put yourself in a position to start small. Don't go dump your entire life savings. Don't think you're going to get rich quick. I tell people, I'm not your girl. I'll make sure you're rich and wealthy forever, but I'm not getting you rich quick. I'm not here to make sure the world is temporarily okay financially. I want to make sure generation after generation is set for the rest of your life and their life. Open a brokerage account, pick a small amount of money that you want to start with, and then make a commitment every 2 weeks to automatically deposit money. If you can pay your bill, you can give your money to the bartender, you can give your money to everybody. Why not allow yourself to say, I matter? But you want to pay the bills. You have mastered paying bills, but have you mastered taking care of you? When was the last time you said yes to you? So picking a small amount every 2 weeks that automatically gets deposited in your investing account. This is my account that I'm using to invest. I'm not embarrassed that there's not a lot. I'm embarrassed because there's nothing in it yet. So start there and then take inventory of where you're giving your money to, because some of the biggest and best companies are companies you can't live without. Like, if you really, really think about it. And then we have a lot of resources. You go to empify.com. We have a lot of classes. We have an entire Wealth Builders community app, which is like the Netflix of finance, where there's over 3,000 people all over the world in 24 different countries starting and who had that exact same question. And literally just in the past year and a half, almost 2 years, our members invested over $6.1 million. Wow. They had that same question, did not have that brokerage account, did not buy that stock, thought they were behind, and look at them now. Collectively, we are making a difference in our lives for ourselves and our families. But I don't want you to feel this way a year from now. So when you think about what does this next year look like for you, these next 365 days, are you going to be the same person financially? And if you don't want to be, you have to do something different today. And it is uncomfortable. It is new. But I tell people, remember the first time you drove a car, you didn't know what you were doing. Or if you have a child, the first time you had your child and you were a parent, you didn't know what you were doing, but you figured it out. So I would say let go of the doubt and trust that you will figure it out, because you're worth figuring it out.
This conversation has been so good. So good. What's next for Ashley? Like, obviously you're on the trajectory of building a $3 billion plus company. We are claiming that. But what is next for you? What else do you want to do?
That's a great question. I don't think it's more about what else I want to do, because you get to a certain point in life where you have money and the things that you dreamt of having, you now either have it or you know you can get it. I would say I have things like I want to go to every major tennis tournament all around the world.
And I love that.
I want to get a home in Paris because that's the best place in the world to me. I want to get a big old house because I want a big old closet that is sectioned off with all my different types of clothes that I wear. But those are just all like tangible things. Yeah. I think for me, I want peace. I want clarity. I want to know that every level of life that I go to, I love her. I enjoy her. And all the things that come with that. Because I find that sometimes as I get more, I feel more afraid. And I want to be able to embrace the moreness of my life, the excitement of my life, the bigness of my life, but not feel that lonely anger and frustration, you know? And so I want to be able to find peace and clarity in the tornado and abundance of my life. And I think that's what matters to me.
Damn. On that note, I would love to know what "and this" means to you. And so this podcast embraces our full beings of us being a multi-dimensional people, of us exploring different versions of ourselves and allowing ourselves to explore different versions of ourselves. So I would love to know when you hear the words "and this," what does that mean to you?
I think infinite possibility. I think we grow up in a world where we think we have to choose this or that. And I always believe it's this and that. So for me, I think of limitlessness, if that's a word, and abundance. Because there's so much more that you can have, do, and become, and you don't have to choose. Why not choose it all?
Yes. So good. So Ashley, thank you so much for being on And This. I'm so excited just for your journey, what you're going to do. Like, there is no doubt in my mind that you are going to accomplish every single thing that you set out to do. And I mean that wholeheartedly. Like, I just see not only the passion and the drive that you have, but just like your genuine heart to really want to impact and serve and help people in this space. So thank you so much for being on And This. I hope that you guys have loved this episode with Ashley Fox of Empify. But not only did we talk about finance and legacy, I really think that the heart of her really showcased through just who she innately is and who we are seeing her become through this journey of growth, healing, transition, and leadership. So I am excited to see you on the next episode of And This.
Hey, did you know that I offered a free wardrobe essentials checklist? Yes, this is going to come with all of the free wardrobe essentials you need to elevate and upgrade your wardrobe. All you have to do is check the show notes or click the link and you can download it right now for free.